Okay, well, we have 30 participants, and I think we can go ahead and get started. So good afternoon. I am Arnie Ondis. I'm president of the 2021 through 22 Governing Board, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. And welcome, whether you're a longtime member, a friend, or visitor. As Nancy Hagman reminded us at church this morning, we are a congregational church, self-supporting and independent in decision-making. We come together as a congregation twice a year to become informed of policies, to discuss issues, and to vote on decision items. Today, this is our mid-year meeting, and we will be sharing information. There are no items requiring a vote today. We all had hoped that we would be holding this meeting in person in the church and on Zoom, but things being as they are with COVID and other concerns, the board decided that the Zoom platform today would probably be the best way of pulling everyone together today. Looking ahead, the annual congregational meeting will be held on Sunday, May 22nd. And remember, an informed and engaged congregation is critical to the success of our church. So I will now call the meeting to order with opening words and lighting the chalice. The opening words are a flame to light our path. And these words are by Deborah Burrell, who is a member of the UU Church of Birmingham, Alabama. Fire consumes and casts a bright light. May our chalice flame consume our regrets for the past, our fears about the future, and our worries about today. May it light for us a path of joy and peace. I don't know if you can see it behind me, but it's lighted. Okay, I think moving on, we can go to the recognition of the Board of Directors. And the Board of Directors for the year 2021-22, for myself as president, President-elect Laura Keith King, past President Lauren Anzaldo, Secretary Denise Gunn, Treasurer Aaron Renfro, Member-at-Large Trista Blauen, Member-at-Large Linda Cobb, Member-at-Large Jean Siebenaller, Member-at-Large Joe Vinson, and we have one vacant. And that vacancy is because the board appointed Laura Keith King to the vacant position of President-elect, and she had previously held that Member-at-Large chair. So the Board of Directors have been working very hard and faithfully through the first half of our church year. And I'd like to thank them for everything that they've done and continue to do in their general dedication to our church. Okay, ministry teams and leaders. We have several ministry teams. I'll just go through these and thank these leaders for their time and dedication. So for adult exploration, it's Tom Botsford. Building and Grounds, Jerry Donnelly. Caring Team, Leslie Ortiz. Children's Religious Education, there's not a team leader, but the team members are Linda Cobb, Penny Featherstone, Kate Wolverton, and Pam Levitt, with the CRE coordinator, Sarah Stubbs. Communications, Aaron Renfro, Lauren Anzaldo, Tara Shute, and Laura Keith King. Denominational Affairs is Trista Blauen. Finance, Mary Lee Donnelly and Lori Winterberg. Fund and Fellowship is Trista Blauen. Membership, Lori Winterberg and Lauren Anzaldo. Safer Congregation, Arnie Ondis, Social Justice, Paula Montgomery and Scott Satterwhite, and Sunday Services, Mary Lee Donnelly. Of course, most of the work that's being done in our congregation is through these ministry teams. So thank you to all of you who are leading this. All right, next is the board liaisons to the ministry teams. Now, the board liaisons are the bridge, or the bridges between the various ministry teams and the governing board. So for Building and Grounds and Safer Congregation, it's myself. Caring and Membership is Joe Vinson. Finance Communications, Aaron Renfro. Social Justice, Gene Siebenaller. Adult Exploration, Children's Religious Education is Linda Cobb. Denominational Affairs and Fund and Fellowship is Trista Blowen. Leadership Development is Lauren Anzaldo. And Sunday Services, Laura Keith King. So these are the members that's the bridge to the board of directors, and anything related, any questions or concerns or whatever related to these various ministry teams, you would be able to contact that specific person. Okay. Moving on, I believe that next is the minister's report. Reverend Alice on?
Yes, I'm on. I'm unmuted now, right? You can hear me?
We can hear you. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you, Arnie. And so we have just recognized our governing board of trustees, our ministry teams and their leaders, and our board liaisons to the teams and to the board. And I just want to add my thank you to Arnie's for all of you and all the work that these groups and these leaders have done during an extraordinary time. And we're in the middle of our 4th year together. And we've been through a lot in these 4 years. And through it all, these leaders and the leaders in this congregation have just continued to give of themselves in amazing ways. And our congregation continues to be a vibrant and open-hearted community, which right now I think is especially important. I know that a lot of people have fared really well through this time. Others have struggled. And it makes sense that the isolation of people in the larger community might lead them to seek out a congregation, a church community. And most people enter a church because for the first time or come back after a long time because of some significant transition in their life, which we have certainly been through. So one of the things to remember is that every Sunday morning in planning worship, religious education, adult programming, children's programming of any kind, that we never know what has brought somebody through our door that day. And being a welcome station for whatever it is that brings a person, a group of people through our doors matters. So I'm glad that it still feels like a vital, vibrant community. When I walk in the door, I feel it, and I'm sure that other people do also. Those of us who have worked to continue offering these different services and programs through all that we've been through with the pandemic, we've done a lot of learning and research and sharing and helping one another. And I think we all hope to continue to adapt to this new normal, as well as maintain a clear focus, at which we have to sharpen that focus from time to time to serve the mission and the vision of the congregation, and to be a place where people can come to deepen the meaning and purpose of their lives. And I'm delighted to be walking that path with all of you. And I suppose if there are questions, I could entertain that. Arnie, what do you think?
Whatever you'd like, Reverend Alice.
Well, I'm here and open to questions if anybody has anything they want to ask. If not, that's fine too.
I cannot see everyone on my screen. So if anyone has a question, please just speak up.
I want to thank Reverend Alice for being here for us, even with her commute and keeping, along with the board and all the ministry teams, keeping us cohesive. So thank you, Reverend Alice.
Thank you, Penny. I appreciate that. Okay, Arnie, take it away.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, I guess next is President's report, and that would be me. So when I was thinking about what I would put together for a message for today's meeting, I was kind of drawing blanks because we've just had so many interruptions in our normal life together, and I talked to a few of you, and I said, no, we've actually done a lot, and we have. I went back and looked through the previous 6 months, and we never really stopped working. We never, even for the times when we were not physically together, we were always striving to provide for everyone's safety and well-being, and still being able to meet the challenges of our mission. We've still been engaged in the community. We're going to hear from Paula with some of the things that we've done there. And we've made sure within our own walls that that nobody's been left behind, and that even for folks who could not physically be together, that they were looked after, and they knew that they remained part of our greater congregation. So also in looking back, the theme for last year was in liminal times. And I got thinking about that, and I don't think we're in liminal times anymore. I think we're kind of working on getting our groove back, and getting our groove back is, I think, a great balancing act with what our mission is, and how we can navigate whatever challenges come our way with whatever variants of COVID or anything else. So, we continue, the board is still, the main thing is protecting the most vulnerable among us, and allowing most members to be together physically. We recognize that well-being is not just being safe from contagion, but it also involves the psychosocial aspects of isolation and the need for socialization. And I guess I'll talk about that a little bit later when we look at the Safer Congregation team. But we're making sure, as I said, that people who are not able to get together with us physically, they're supported by the ministry teams, caring, Sunday services, communication, fun and fellowship, just basically the goodness of our members. And we will continue to try to strike that balance between the health and well-being of people and fulfilling our mission. But we've been active. We've upgraded some policies, and of course, the board approved taking the steps to investigating becoming a welcoming congregation. So things are moving forward, and I think that we're getting our groove back. And part of that is that I think that as we try to find our groove again, we know it's going to be different somehow. You know, some things will feel familiar and comforting, and other things are going to feel foreign and challenging. And I think that's just the way finding a new groove goes. So just remember that as we go forward, that finding our groove is really a process. And that process actually creates space for us. It creates space to imagine and to do new things. So we have a lot to look forward to. We just have to be careful that, you know, I love this metaphor because we don't want our groove to become a rut. So that concludes my report as president. Are there any questions? All right, I think we can move on. Next, I believe, is the treasurer's report.
Okay, well, as this cover page says, I will be doing a recap of last fiscal year's end, and also I'll be giving a little report on where we are as of December 31st this year. So we can go ahead and advance to the next slide, Lauren. Okay, so this will be the recap of last fiscal year, how we ended up. As you can see, our total budget last year was $138,390. And I had just a note of what the budget was the year before, just so we can see what's happening from year to year with our budget. So on income, which is over here on the left, you can look at the absolute numbers in the middle column, but the percentage on the right is, to me, a little bit helpful to sort of see where we are in comparison to what we budgeted. So we had a great response on people catching up their unpaid pledges last year. And we also had really good pledge payment. We had 99% pledge fulfillment last year. So that was really great. Offerings were down because of the COVID closures. We were closed at 78% of our budget on offerings. The auction did better than planned. We had budgeted $2,000 for that, and it came in just over $3,800. But the rest of fundraising was almost entirely share the stimulus, since we didn't have our live auction or the concert that we usually have, and we didn't have any of the yard sales. So most of that the total for non-auction fundraising was the share the stimulus program. And thank you very much to everyone who contributed to that. As you can see, it was actually a very successful fundraiser, despite being sort of an unexpected one. We did not take any funds budgeted for operating expenses from the trust last year, but that actually sort of brings down the income percentage, because it is sort of like unrealized income, money that we had budgeted as income that we did not get. But it actually is a good thing in the grand scheme of things that we don't have to take it. We do take our usual, we took $332 from the trust because we did have some memorial nameplates to put for the bronze member nameplates, and the trust does pay for those. But that transaction happens off budget, so it doesn't have anything to do with our draw for the operating budget. Over here on the right, expenses, as you can see, came out at just under income, but still pretty close to budget at 93.4%. You would think the expenses would have gone way down because we were closed for COVID, but the biggest expenses we have are actually ones that don't change. And that is the minister and the paid staff, which is the office manager and the CRE coordinator, and expenses related to buildings and grounds, like especially our wind insurance, which is $11,000. Those are all expenses that are big, and they're more or less the same whether we're open or not. So we might have saved a few dollars here and there, not running the air conditioner quite as much, but we do keep the building at a fairly steady temperature. And, you know, some days during the summer, even keeping the building at 80 degrees had to run the air conditioner. So we do that to sort of keep away the mold and keep the technology protected and keep the pipes from freezing. We run the heat and all that. So we end up saving a little bit, but not much. And we did continue to pay our pianist most of the year, as she was providing music for us during our long distance services. Areas where we did see savings were actually the smaller budget lines and like kitchen supplies, because we didn't use as many coffee cups, that kind of thing. And unfortunately, our ministry teams, they weren't doing as much social justice. We weren't participating in Pride or things that were in person because of COVID. So our ministry teams weren't spending quite as much, but they get a tiny percentage of the budget anyway. We did have a small PPP loan that offset some of Tara's salary, and we were able to use some of that for utilities. For some reason, they just didn't see fit to give us anything for our minister's salary, because what they gave us was based on our quarterly payroll taxes, and we don't pay payroll taxes for the minister. So they just pretended she didn't exist, I guess. Before I move on, does anyone have questions about last year? Okay, if you think of any, please feel free to email me or put it in chat later. I'm always happy to answer questions. So we can go to the next slide, Lauren. Okay, so this is where we are in this fiscal year. And these numbers are as of December 31st. So our budget went up a little bit from last year. We're on almost $140,000 this year for total budget. Our pledges and offerings, if you look at the percentage line, as of December 31st, ideally things will be at 50%. So if you compare them to 50%, you can see where we're running a little bit behind and where we might be running over. We've had a good response with people catching up pledges from last year. So the few people that didn't completely fulfill their pledge have done a good job of catching those up. Currently, our pledges are at 41%, which is not fantastic. So if it has just slipped your mind to pay your pledge, maybe try to unslip it. Understand people's financial circumstances change throughout the year, but if it's just because you've forgotten to do it, it would be super helpful to get us back to at least the 50% where we should be. Offerings are actually doing pretty well now that we're open, and hopefully that trend will continue. And that's what brought up our income here to 47. This other income, let's see, is that on there? I think it's lumped in with something else. We actually had a pledge that was paid that we weren't expecting because they didn't turn in a pledge card. So that went into other income, and that was kind of a nice size check. So I'm keeping it in other income instead of offerings until I make sure that it wasn't intended for a specific purpose. And almost all of our fundraising income was from last spring's Share the Stimulus program, which we put into a savings account to use for this year's operating expenses. We've gotten $52 in Amazon Smiles, so y'all need to shop more. We have $200 pledged, budgeted for that. So y'all get on there and spend some money. We don't have an auction planned for this year, and we had budgeted for one yard sale. Stay tuned. There may be some action on that, even in a slightly different form, because Laurie, who is our resident evil genius, has an idea in her brain that might bring in some of that missing yard sale income. We did have a very large draw on our trust funds budgeted this year, as you can see down here on the last line before the total. We budgeted $14,000 in income from the charitable trust this year to meet our operating expenses, and that is a very, very large draw. We have taken $5,000 of that just to keep our cash flow going, because when your draw on the trust is that big a percentage of your budget, as you can see, it is a large percentage of this. It's almost 10%, or maybe it's just over 10% of our budget. So if you don't get that money coming in, that makes your income look real, real bad. So we did go ahead and take $5,000 of that. And I am expecting at some point we'll probably have to take at least another $5,000. We'll try to get by without taking the entire thing, but we'll have to see how that goes. And let's see, the surplus down here, 2021 surplus, we had $1,700 of income over expenses. So that rolled over. Any questions on income this year? All right, I will move on to the next slide then. All right, so this is our expenses. They're looking pretty good at the moment, as you can just see, taking a quick look at the total. We're at 41%. And So it's a little deceptive to look at them at this time of the year because we do have a couple of large expenses that come in June. So their expenses are always going to lag a little bit behind right up until the end of the year. But at the moment, we are keeping them a good bit under income. So that's always good. Places where we have saved, the musician for all the wrong reasons. Because Denise got sick and we just haven't been paying a musician until recently when Chris joined us. So, but that's showing in savings in the budget line. Again, being closed for a while saved us on some of our supplies, but we're going to probably start ordering things again as we start getting back to normal operations. The minister and paid staff and things like utilities are running right at 50%, again, because they generally stay the same whether we're open or not. The minister's health premiums have went up a few dollars starting in January, but we always budget a little bit of a pad for that. Hopefully we can just absorb it until we get the new budget going. We are having regular custodial service once a week, and we've gotten much needed tree trimming work done on the grounds. And we also had some repair work done to the ceiling out in the back area of the back porch. So that pushed our lawn care and maintenance budget lines. They are at 75 and 82% of budget right now. So they are creeping up really fast on what we have budgeted for them. And those will show in the church operations. Luckily, everything else is running under budget, so it hasn't brought that percentage up too terribly much. So all told, except for the buildings and grounds, which quite frankly, these days we don't really budget enough for anyway, the expenses are looking to be on track with the budget. So we're mostly just keeping an eye on the income to make sure that it stays at a point where we can maintain our operating budget the way we have it. So that is the end of my report. So if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to take them now or anytime. I did want to mention I sent out giving statements for your taxes last week. And they went out by email to everyone who has an email address on file with Simple Church. And the ones that do not have an email address on file got a hard copy through the mail. So if you have not received it, or if you're having trouble opening it, or if you have any questions, if something in there doesn't look right, please contact me. Okay. If no one has any questions, I'm done.
Thank you, Erin. That's a lot of hard work. Okay, now we can move on to the ministry team reports. And we'll start with the Safer Congregation, which I will report. And if I could have the next slide, please. Mark, could you advance it once more, please? Okay, well, what I'd like to start out by thanking the team members. Our team members are Jerry Donnelly, Leslie Grill, Denise Gunn, Marcy Moreland, Jean Siebenaler, Jack Wolverton, and myself. And I would like to really thank them because obviously they're very dedicated. We've done a lot of work over the last couple of years, mostly related to COVID, but I would like to particularly thank them for their flexibility, because this year things have changed so fast that to keep up with things and to make the appropriate recommendations to the board on what we should do regarding COVID, we've had to call email votes and discussions really at the drop of a hat, and everyone was there. And I also want to commend Jean Siebenaler. Jean graciously shared her expertise and insight with us. I think most everyone knows that she's a physician with background and expertise in public health. And Jean actually was our guiding light. We were able to make very informed decisions because of her insight and expertise, and not only make sound decisions, but also to feel confident about them. So I think we're all really indebted to Jean for her leadership through our COVID experience. But talking about Safer Congregation, there are two things I want to cover quickly. The first is dealing with this pandemic and with the Omicron. I just want to assure everyone that we're very diligently watching the metrics with what's going on. And it appears that not only did we peak locally and plateau, but yesterday and today, it looks like we're starting to come back down with positivity rates. I just want everyone to understand that we're looking at Omicron with really a different lens than we had when we started with, the first COVID and then the Delta variant. It's a whole different thing. And when we realized that even though our positivity rates were high, we also knew that people who were fully vaccinated and boosted are very unlikely to get infected, and if they did, it would not carry enough of the viral load to be able to pass it on to someone else. So our recommendation was to stay open during this latest wave, but we tried very hard to communicate, not only as a ministry team, but through the board, to communicate that, people need to make their own decision based on where they are, what they're comfortable with. But I think that I'm very pleased that we've been able to stay open and to meet the needs of socialization, being together safely. And we've had very good turnouts for our Sunday morning services. So that's Omicron, and we're continuing to monitor everything. So, stay tuned. Things could change, but it looks like things are heading in the right direction again. The other thing that I want to leave you with is that when we started the Safer Congregation team, and it started as a committee, we started looking at our physical safety and the security of the building and grounds. And that's what we were starting to focus on. And then COVID hit. And of course, that became more urgent. And most of our attention has been focused on that. Well, I think we can do two things now. And I think that we can continue to work with COVID, but also get back to our safety and building security, particularly in light of recent developments in the country and politics and just kind of where we are. So that's something that we're going to be focusing on starting this month. And really, that's my report for the Safer Congregation. If there are any questions, please speak. There's a communication from Hugh, and let me find it again. This is from you, Ed. What are the pro and con factors of keeping the keys in the plastic boxes over the light switches and perhaps over the thermostat controls? The reason that the keys are in there, the reason that we put the plastic boxes over the light switches in the restrooms was so that it would remind everyone that we're keeping those fans on as long as the building is occupied. We don't really need to lock it. We didn't want to lose the keys. It was just as easy to leave the key in there. So it's not for security. It's really more of a reminder that we all need to keep the ventilation going in the restrooms. Any other questions? Okay, then I think we can move on to the membership team report with Lauren.
Thank you, everybody. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Great. So my computer is acting up and I'm running the slides. So sorry, I wasn't able to advance. It was taking its time. And then I bounce back and forth. So sorry about that. And I'm not turning on my video for that reason. My computer is running very slow and I don't want to cause delay. So I am going to be given the membership team report. And this is a slide that I think Lori Winterberg provided us a couple of years back, just sort of reminding us that, we are non-creedal faith and really we covenant to be together. And so this, when we talk about membership, we're talking about folks who ascribe to our mission and our values and our principles and determine that they would like to be a part of our community. So that's a wonderful thing to celebrate. I have been the co-chair with Lori this past year, and I'm apprenticing with her under her very capable tutelage. And I think the plan is for me to be the kind of the main lead chair for the membership team moving into the next year. So the membership team, like Arnie was saying, we kind of never stopped a lot of different things despite all the different changes and the ways that things were happening in the last year, 2 years, going into now 3 years. So our membership activities still continued, even while we were, at times having remote services and things of that nature. So we've really been trying to focus on making some improvements and some adjustments to the way that the membership team operates and how we reach out and connect with prospective members. So we were able to kind of create a way to identify prospective members, which are those people who visit us maybe more than once or twice or 3 times, and they sort of express an interest, but they're not ready to join right away. So they would just like more time to get to know us and potentially join. And in that vein, and in the light of really all the virtual options that are out there today, we completely revised the Become a Member section of our website. I know for most of us who have been members for a while, we probably don't really ever look at that section of the website, but we were able to revamp it and create basically a self-guided orientation guide for those who might be interested in learning more so that they can take their time and go through that, learn more about our congregation and our denomination, and really make a decision because it is a serious commitment and decision to determine whether they wanted to become a member or not. So we revamped that, and that's been in practice now for, I'd say about 6, maybe not 6 months, but maybe about 4 months. And so some of our recent members actually went through that and gave us some feedback, and we're still always, open to retooling that as needed. We really want to emphasize and help folks to understand what it means to be a member and to get new members engaged in congregational life so that we have, folks of all different experiences and longevity with the church involved in our ministry teams, involved in, preparing for leadership and taking on leadership roles, just all different ways of getting engaged and really keeping folks engaged because, we as members of this congregation really make up what the congregation does and what we're capable of doing and new opportunities for us. We had one new member ceremony since we last met in this forum, and that was in the spring of 2021. It was at the outdoor service. I think it was in April, and we recognized 3 new members who joined at that time, including one family that has been attending. And we have 3 more new members that have joined since then. And since we resumed in-person indoor services, we are looking at planning another new member welcome ceremony that will hopefully happen shortly, maybe in the next month or so on a Sunday when Reverend Alice is here with us. And we continue to use Simple Church and to kind of take advantage of its capabilities for us. There is an app which allows members and friends to connect with others and have, giving information and directory information really available at the touch of a finger on their phone. In terms of where we are in regard to our membership numbers, I just re-updated the slide today because we did just have another new member, which is included in that number of 3 who signed the membership book today. So we currently stand as 87 members. We have 20 friends, 4 associate members, and 3 honorary lifetime members. And everyone probably knows what most of those categories mean, except associate members is one that we kind of get questions about from time to time. And that really just refers to a member who has recently moved away. And for about a year, they continue to be listed as an associate member, helps to keep them in the directory and that sort of thing as well. So it discussed, this would require some consideration in the bylaws. So none of this is for sure, but we've been looking at the fact that some of our members even move away, but because we now offer online capability with following services and things like that, that some of them are still attending, even though they physically relocated. And so kind of looking at that piece as well. But membership really, in terms of the definition of it, it really gets down to making, commitment to being engaged and also to making a financial contribution to our congregation. So that is our membership team report. And then I have another slide that goes into our attendance. So just full disclosure, this does include in-person attendance plus online. We are not currently streaming. We're looking back into doing that in the future. That's something Sunday Services is working on, and we'll talk more about. But we do post most of all of our services as a recorded video that gets posted on our YouTube channel, and it's also shared on our Facebook page, and I believe it's accessible as well on the website. So this really looks at how many views we have of those services plus the in-person, how many folks are actually in seats when we count them. And so the highest attendance, or in terms of those two combined categories, was 78 for the December 19th service. And the lowest was in September of this past year. There was 13, which was only a Zoom service. So there was no opportunity for in-person attendance at that one. But our average weekly attendance is right around 50, again, including those who are viewing virtually as well as those who are in person. Any questions, comments about that? So we just continue to, be serving the members that we have, and as well as welcoming in new folks, helping folks to get oriented, and just doing what we do, keeping in touch and arranging new member ceremonies as well. I think that is all for me then.
Thank you, Lauren. We can move on to the Sunday Services team with Mary Lee Donnelly.
Sorry, I'm a little slow on the uptake. Thank you. And you can forward to the next slide, please. I'd like to identify the members of the team. And I really, really appreciate every single one of you. Dolly Berthelot, Laura Keith King, Nancy Hagman, Paula Montgomery, and Sarah Stubbs, sorry. I would like to say that Rob Palme was a member of the team, and he has moved away, and we dearly miss him. His insightful suggestions were always really appreciated. So if you're listening or watching, Rob, you are missed. We were some accomplishments that we had this year. We started out in July in person. We were outside, but we did do some in person starting out, and then had to go back to recording our services or videoing our services and doing them on Zoom. And so we've been able to continue services throughout this uncertain time of, will we be in, will we be out, what would we do? Only one service ended up being canceled, and that was because of weather, and that was the one with Rodney Jones, which we were able to reschedule, but so not too bad. We were able to continue our services during that time. We've had really good success with all of the speakers and topics that we have, with the help of Reverend Alice giving us our information with Soul Matters. We've used the continuity of our message and added the 7 principles to identify that. That was something that was asked by members and within our team, is to make those visible and make sure that people remember all of the 7 principles and have that reminder. During this time, because of recording and having to do all of the trying to keep things visible to as many as we can, we've had to purchase some new equipment and or replace what we have. So that's been some problem. I'm very happy to know that I'm sure you all know this, that the choir has returned and they are active and very much appreciated. It is difficult singing with a mask. I'm speaking to the choir now, but it is so much appreciated. And that is with Laura's help. She has done such a phenomenal job of recruiting and practicing. And another highlight of this half year is that we were able to return to the Christmas Eve candlelight service, which was beautiful, and also with the help of Laura. So we've had so much. And we are very, very grateful to the congregation for all its support. During this time, last year and now this year, working with the equipment that we have and trying to announce and show our services online has been a struggle. And with that, we've had quite a bit of conversation of trying to figure out how we can do live streaming to widen our audience. We have been getting people coming online to watch our services, and it would be a good thing if we can widen that audience. So the board, we're very grateful to the board, has agreed to create an ad hoc team to look into what would be required to get us a little bit more into the 21st century. So it's not happened yet, but that's on the horizon. We'll get some information on that, and then decisions will be made. But thank you very much. Any questions? All right.
Thank you, Mary Lee, and thank you and your team for all of your hard work this year. Okay, we can move on to the CRE team. Sarah Stubbs.
Hello, everyone. It's been quite a year for everybody. I know, listening to people's struggles. In this past fall, as the liturgical year began, I didn't have a lot of in-person attendance for the children. They were waiting on their vaccines. And so come Christmas, when the littles were able to get vaccines, the attendance went way up real quick. I've been having on average just about every Sunday about 8 kids, which is wonderful. That's even better than before the pandemic to have that many each Sunday. Unfortunately, though, we've lost a couple of families this year. We know y'all have heard about the Mulvaneys have moved to Mississippi. Well, the Levitts are getting ready to move to Washington, D.C. So we're going to lose those. Both of those families were very active, and the parents were very involved in CRE. So I hope to find some more parents. I got a grand today. Denise Gunn volunteered to help out back there, so that's good. And let's see. So we've lost the 2. And then like I said, Christmas time, when the kids got vaccinated, they came right back again. And then we have some new kids that are showing up, kind of taking the places of our kids that we're losing. Laura Wood and her 3 children have started coming regularly, except for when they went away for the holidays, but they're back now and have been every Sunday since they returned. The Brockaways was one of the new members from last spring, And she's been coming and bringing her children. They came Christmas. You can see them in the photograph there on the slide. The young man that's taking the picture, that's James, is a block away. And the one hiding his face, oh, what is his name? I can't see his face. There are 3 of them, but only 2 came to Christmas. And then we have some grandchildren of longtime members that have been coming regularly. Yay, I'm so glad that y'all are bringing them. So I have the Denise Gunn's grandchildren. Laura Keith King has brought her granddaughter. And is there another one? I'm sure y'all correct me if I missed one. So while we were waiting for the children to get their shots, we did some family activity packs is what I started to do. And then we were going to do online. Then we weren't going to do online. And anyway, I only managed to get one family activity pack out. And I don't know if everybody got to see it. I'm real proud of it. We did it was a chalice. So I sent them everything they needed to do for everybody in that family to create a little chalice out of a champagne cup and tissue paper, and also sent them a little candle, a little electric candle to light it. And I got some good feedback from some of the families. I sent one to Marianne Hodges and her daughter. They live up in Alabama. They like to come. They were real active at one time, and they did it and really enjoyed it. I'm trying to think who else sent me information that they had enjoyed it. I was real proud of the trifold that I made that had the history of our symbol, the chalice on it, how it got started back during the Second World War as a not social justice, service committee. It was a service committee project to allow people of different languages to be able to recognize the symbol as a safe place to go. If you would like to see one of those trifolds, they're on the table on Sunday mornings with me. I have them out there. And I think I have one kit left if anybody would like to do one. It has 3 cups in it to make a chalice, and a bottle of glue and some tissue paper, and you might add some glitter or other things to it to make it sparkle, and a candle. Are there any questions for me? Things are really looking up in CRE. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, next we have the social justice team report with Paul Montgomery.
Excuse me. I
Yeah,
have a question.
yes, ask me a question.
Yeah, this is Dolly.
Hi, Dolly.
Hi. Did I hear you say it started during the Second World War? Has some new information come?
My understanding that the Unitarian Service Committee, they had a graphic designer on with their group, and he was the one that designed the chalice that they put up to show people. You know, it was like they do in the airports now with bathrooms and stuff. Was a symbol that everybody could see and understand that it was a safe place to go during World War II. Did you have another story about how it started?
Well, the official story is that in '58, Penny Barney started it by putting an ad in the paper.
Oh, I hadn't heard that one.
Anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's in our book, and it's been in the previous book before that. Now, that doesn't mean that there couldn't have also been something that UUA did, but our
it wasn't UUA back back in the 40s and the 50s. It was still 2 different churches. They didn't combine until 63.
Right, 69.
Oh, I thought you said 50, but you said 60. Okay.
No. The church, our church, Hoof, started when Penny Barney put an ad in the paper asking for anybody who had an interest in liberal religion to come meet. I don't remember right now where they met, but there were 4 or 5 people.
Yeah, they met in homes, my understanding. And I had one of the original members used to live across the street from me, the Bud and Holga Castro. Yeah. So So I would like to, if you would want to share that with me, the story you have about the ad in the paper, and we can compare notes.
Well, we need to look at the book. Look at the book that was done on our 50th anniversary.
If you'll lead me the way, I'll be glad to look at it. Thank you, Dolly.
Well, okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, thank you. Next, Paula Montgomery.
I think Alice had something to say.
You know, I'm sorry, I can't
Yeah,
see everybody on the screen, so.
Okay.
that's all right. I just wanted to clear something up there. Sarah, you were talking about the UUSC.
Yes,
Right?
the service committee, right? The USA and during World War.
Right.
II.
I know. So what I'm kind of clarifying is that Sarah was talking about the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee and how it got the symbol of the chalice.
Mhm.
And then I think Dolly was talking about the congregation. So I
Oh,
think there was a
Crosswalk.
slight miscommunication there.
Right.
Anyway, that's all.
thank you, Alice.
Sure.
Okay, this is Paula Montgomery. And by the way, if Scott, who is my co-chair, has anything to add,
Jump in.
please jump in. I started the list that I use as my committee, which is pretty long, at a meeting that we had several years ago. And I have added to it and occasionally subtracted when people moved away. But if you would like to get all of this, the social justice materials that I send out and all of the reminders and suggestions, please let me know and I'll be glad to add you. If you don't want to get all that stuff, I'll be glad to take, I won't be glad, but I will take you off the list. So one thing that we have continued, even though we could not go out into the community and participate in various events for the last couple of years, we have continued our fifth Sunday sharing the plate. And in the last, since the last annual meeting, I have a list here of the people who received the fifth Sunday plates. I don't have the number of the amount of money, but each of these people got a donation as part of our fifth Sunday share the plate. Just Pensacola, we know about. We have a commitment as a congregation to support the work of Just Pensacola. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. But as part of our commitment, we give them the money of this, and also we have some budgeted money to give to Just Pensacola. The New World Believers is Rodney Jones's organization, and they are, well, he explained it, and I recommend that you look back in your recorded services and see his wonderful presentation about it. He also received one of our little free libraries at his place. So I'll come to that in a minute also. We sent money to the Trauma Response Ministry, which is a UUA organization. And I'm not going to give details of all of these, but anyway, it's pretty self-explanatory. And our next one is next week, Family Promise. And we'll have members of the, the steering committee for that, Donna Jacoby and one other, to come and talk to us about that. So we are sharing what we have with our community beyond these walls. Right now, the legislature is in session and will be for a couple of months. And one way in which we can make our voices heard is to identify bills that are coming through the legislature that are either in accord with our beliefs or contrary to our beliefs. And we can contact our legislators and let them know what we feel and why. These are very important, but you may find them just a bother to get, but please look at them and consider responding. It generally doesn't take long. Now, I confess, I sent you 3 yesterday, but I was behind. That was my fault. Normally, you won't get more than 1 or 2 a week, and they're important. Our voices need to be heard. Numbers count. Next slide. Oh, Just Pensacola. I think everyone knows what this is. The Just Pensacola is the organization that pulls together, I think, 17 different congregations of all sorts. And we work on social justice issues. We're working on affordable housing and also juvenile justice at this time. Okay, this is a picture of us installing our little free library in front of Rodney Jones' place, the New World Believers place. And the one below was a lot of fun. We had a march or a rally for justice in voting. And you can see there in the foreground, that's me. And then the one with the short one with the big hat, that's Marcy. And then Hugh Ed is over there, and we all three have on UU shirts. There were other UUs there, and that's the kind of thing that's fun. So I recommend that when we have more outdoor activities like that, that you consider joining us. That's us in the community.
Thank you, Paula. Are there any questions for Paula?
Well, he asked a question. Did you hear?
I don't have a question.
Oh.
He asked if anyone had questions for me. Okay, if there are no questions, I yield.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, that concludes the ministry team reports. And upcoming next is the report from the Welcoming Congregation Ad Hoc Committee with Laura King.
So, Lauren, if you advance that slide, does it show us the committee members? There we go. That's me. And the rest are, whoops. Can you go back? Somehow we didn't see all of our committee members. Okay. Huh. Well, okay. Now I know who they are. The committee members are me and Joe Vinson and Heather Stefanescu and Chris Brockway and Desmond Anzaldo. Oh, there they are. Very good. This was an ad hoc committee formed this fall, and the committee has met twice. We are investigating the possibility of pursuing the UUA Welcoming Congregation designation, the symbol of which you saw in the previous slide. It's that colorful rainbow with the chalice in the middle and LGBTQ Welcoming Congregation. Actually, it's on the next slide, so maybe you could show that. Oh, I'm looking at a different version of just like Arnie warned me might happen, that we would get different versions of the PowerPoint and not all be looking at the same thing. There is the symbol. It's a symbol that we hope to put on our website, thereby enabling people who are looking for a safe and welcoming congregation to know that that is our goal. There are 11 requirements that we would need to meet. Now, this committee is really just investigating the situation, and we do hope to bring it to the congregation for a vote at the May congregational meeting, by which time hopefully everyone will know what's going on and what it means. It communicates to the public that a congregation welcomes people of all gender and sexual orientations and experiences without prejudice or judgment. And we believe this is already true of our congregation, but that the general public outside of our walls may not know it. And in fact, I know of 2 recent members who looked for that, recently joined members who looked for that designation on our website and didn't see it. But they decided to keep watching the videos and determine for themselves if they thought they would be welcome, and they decided they would. Other people may not go to that trouble. They may see that we're not claiming to be a welcoming congregation, and they'll just move on, because there are other churches in the area who do claim that. So let's go to the next slide. That is the insignia that will go on the website. It requires an application to the UUA, and I will talk to you momentarily about what is required that we agree to before we put in our application, or with our application. Next. The first commitment is that we have decided to be inclusive and expressive of the concerns of people who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and or queer at every level of congregational life, in worship, in program, and in social occasions, welcoming not only their presence but the unique gifts and peculiarity or particularities of their lives as well. Next. A welcoming congregation does not assume anyone's affectional or sexual orientation and or gender identity. Vocabulary of worship reflects this perception. Worship celebrates diversity by inclusivity of language and content. This is something I believe we already do, as we do the first one. So the next one, 3 out of 11. An understanding of the experience of lesbian and gay and bisexual, transgender, and queer persons is fully incorporated by a welcoming congregation throughout all programs, including religious education. And next. The bylaws and other official documents of a welcoming congregation include an affirmation and non-discrimination clause affecting all dimensions of congregational life, including membership, hiring practices, and the calling of religious professionals. So this is something that we believe that is right, and yet our bylaws don't specifically have an affirmation and non-discrimination clause in it. We're working on our bylaws now. There's a team working on that, and many nonprofits have had such an affirmation and non-discrimination clause for decades. So this is not going to be a difficult challenge for us. And we can go on to the next slide. I will be giving you a couple of short examples of what that clause might sound like. A welcoming congregation engages in outreach to lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer communities, both through its advertising, which we don't really advertise, but our website could be considered advertising, and by actively supporting other lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer affirmative groups. We do support these groups. We could always look at ways to support them more. And next. A welcoming congregation offers congregational and ministerial support for services of union and memorial services for persons who are LGBT and or queer, and celebrations of evolving definitions of families. In other words, we do memorial services, we do wedding ceremonies. This is something we have already met, this requirement. So let's move on to number 7. Trying to go through these quickly so as not to make this meeting last all afternoon. And thank you, Lauren, for all of your work here. A welcoming congregation celebrates the lives of all people and welcomes same-gender couples, recognizing their committed relationships, and equally affirms displays of caring and affection without regard for sexual orientation. I should hope we all feel that way. And number 8. A welcoming congregation seeks to nurture ongoing dialogue between people of different affectional/sexual orientations and gender identities, and to create deeper trust and sharing. And 9. A welcoming congregation affirms and celebrates lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer issues and history during the church year. This is something we do. We are pretty consistent about having church services during the appropriate times of year that celebrate these issues and history. Next. A welcoming congregation, as an advocate for LGBTQ people, attends to legislative developments and works to promote justice, freedom, and equality in the larger society. It speaks out when the rights and dignity of LGBTQ people are at stake, which is part of our social justice team goals. And just one more, number 11. A welcoming congregation celebrates the lives of all people and their ways of expressing their love for each other. Next. Okay, the bylaws and other official documents of a welcoming congregation. This is number 4, which I mentioned we would be looking at the possibility of changing our bylaws. And a couple of examples. Next. And you can click it once more. There we go. That's good. So these are not controversial. We value the diversity of racial and cultural identity and backgrounds, nationality. I think we all agree on this. If we believe in our 7 principles, these are pretty no-brainer kinds of ideas that we will not discriminate against people who are LGBTQ, and we will welcome them in all of our activities. So I'm thinking, is there another one or not? Okay, I think that's the last one. We do plan to, well, there may be one more. No, that was the last one. But I wanted to say before I finish that we plan to bring and hope to bring the issue to the May meeting for a vote of support. And if we get the vote from the congregation to go ahead with this, we will be sending the application to UUA Boston. And I don't know how long it takes them to turn that around. But the basic idea is to put that insignia on our website so people can see it. People seem to be of the idea that this is going to create some big change. Some people think it's going to create a big change in our congregation, and they've noticed that the pronouns on our name tags. I would like to make sure everyone understands that those pronouns are not mandatory that you put them on your name tag. Seems to be some people who don't care for that, and that's fine. And we hope to have a discussion about the use of pronouns on the name tags and the use of pronouns in, generally speaking, as part of the educational program relating to the Welcoming Congregation Committee process. And I also invite you to contact anyone on the committee if you would like to participate and or if you have concerns or questions. We'll be putting out a survey over the next couple of weeks. And on February 6th, we'll be doing a second hour panel with some LGBTQ people who are, some of them are transgender people. There is a therapist who specifically works with people with gender issues. And I think that's going to be really interesting. I hope you'll all show up for that. And that is my report. And if there are any questions now, I'm willing and eager to answer what I can.
Laura, this is Paula. It looks to me like the major thing we need to do is change our bylaws.
Yes, that's the major thing we have to do.
Okay.
Yep. Really, there's not a whole lot to it. Some people have some ideas about promoting specific theories of sexuality. That's not what it is. We feel we are very much a welcoming congregation now, and this is a designation that's been out for 33 years. So we're not like rushing into this. We do want everybody to understand it and be on board with it, but this is not a new thing, and we're not rushing. So hopefully in May we'll get on board with many other congregations who want to make it clear that we are welcoming, and we want these people with us, and we want them to have a safe place and a happy place to be. So this is an issue near and dear to my heart, and I hope that it can move forward pretty quickly. Any other questions? All set.
Hey, Laura, thank you very much. That was very informative. Good work. Okay, next up is a report on the Charitable Trust with Jerry Donnelly.
Well, you may not know it, but you're really happy to see me because I'm the last report. The Charitable Trust has been in existence for this church since 1988. Our members are, chair is Georgiana Bryant. I'm the treasurer. Aaron Renfro is secretary. Lori Winterberg is a trustee, and Patty Underwood is our newest one. She's replacing probably the most representative Unitarian Universalist person ever, Barbara Goggins. So next. We've got, at the moment, $8,500 in cash. That's for the church if it needs it. Our investments are $448,052. The church, the UUCP, owes us $11,011 for HVAC units. 3 of them, actually. We were just paid another $2,500 from the church. So we just put that in there as an aside. It's now only $8,600. Investment performance, we're up 12.8% for the year. And annually, since 2009, we're up 8.6 a year. So we're getting over 8% interest annually compounded, which amounts to quite a bit of money. Just wanted to mention that we got $2,900 from members and non-members to the trust in Barbara Goggins' name. And she remembered us in the will in a generous way. So we got any questions? Okay,
Okay, Jerry, thank you very much. So moving on, we've come to the closing words with Laura Keith King.
And this time I have unmuted. This is May We Go Forth by George Rudolph Freeman. May we go forth to the duties of our days with willing hands and honest minds, with faith in the power of good over evil, ready to take our place in the world of humanity, expecting to be forgiven only as we forgive others, working and hoping for that day when ties of brotherhood shall bind together every member of the human family.
Thank you, Laura. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Arnie.
Thank you.